She was only 26 when the doctor looked at the ultrasound screen, went quiet, and then slowly turned it toward her. At first, she thought something was wrong. Her heart dropped. Then he cleared his throat and said words that would change her life forever. "You're carrying 7 babies." For a few seconds, the room felt unreal, like time had paused. 7. Not twins. Not triplets. 7 tiny heartbeats flickering on the screen. Her husband laughed nervously, convinced it was a joke. She started crying, not from fear, not from joy alone, but from the sheer weight of what destiny had placed in her hands. The news spread fast. In their small town, people whispered her name in markets and mosques. Some called it a miracle. Others called it madness. Relatives argued. Neighbors warned her it was impossible. Doctors explained the risks again and again. They suggested selective reduction, a word she couldn't bring herself to accept. Every heartbeat mattered to her. She refused. Pregnancy was not gentle. Her body carried more than it was designed to hold. She couldn't sleep. Breathing became difficult. Walking felt like climbing a mountain. By the 6th month, she was hospitalized permanently. Machines beeped day and night. Nurses knew her by name. She prayed constantly, sometimes begging, sometimes just whispering gratitude for every morning she woke up still pregnant. When the day finally came, it was chaos mixed with awe. An entire medical team waited. One baby came out crying. Then another. And another. 7 tiny lives, premature but alive. The delivery room felt like history being written in real time. Some babies fit in the palm of a hand. Tubes, incubators, soft blankets, everything happened at once. The weeks that followed were the hardest of her life. She barely ate. She barely slept. She moved between incubators like a ghost, memorizing the rise and fall of 7 chests. One baby struggled to breathe. Another had feeding problems. Doctors prepared her for loss, gently, professionally. She refused to imagine it. Every night, she sat alone and promised each child that she would not give up. Slowly, unbelievably, they survived. When they finally went home, the house transformed into something between a nursery and a battlefield. 7 cribs, endless bottles, laundry that never ended. The sound of crying was constant, sometimes one, sometimes all 7 together, like a choir with no conductor. Money became tight. Her husband took extra shifts. She learned to feed 3 babies at once, holding bottles with practiced hands. People loved to watch from the outside. Some helped, many judged. "Why did you do this? How will you raise them?" She stopped listening. Survival left no space for opinions. As toddlers, they became a storm. 7 personalities, 7 wills. They crawled, then walked, then ran in different directions. She learned quickly that comparison was poison. One spoke early, another stayed silent longer. One was calm, one was fierce, one was gentle. 2 were inseparable. They were not a group, they were 7 individuals who happened to share a beginning. School brought new challenges. Teachers stared in disbelief when all 7 walked in together on the first day, identical backpacks lined up like soldiers. Other children asked questions constantly. Some were kind, some were cruel. The children learned early how to protect each other. If one was teased, the others stood close, a silent wall. Money remained a struggle. Birthdays were simple, clothes were shared, toys were repaired instead of replaced. Yet laughter filled the house. Their mother made a rule. Every night, no matter how tired she was, she would listen. One by one, each child could speak. Their fears, their dreams, their small victories. Those moments built something stronger than comfort. Teenage years tested everything. One child rebelled hard, angry at the lack of attention, wanting to be seen alone, not as one of 7. Another became responsible beyond her years, helping cook, helping clean, acting like a second mother. One withdrew into books. One discovered sports. One struggled in silence. One carried the weight of being the miracle baby who had almost died at birth. Arguments became louder. Doors slammed. Tears were shed. She doubted herself constantly. Had she done enough? Had she divided her love too thin? On nights when all 7 slept, she sat alone and replayed every decision she'd ever made. Then time did what it always does. It moved forward. At 20, the house grew quieter. One child left for university on a scholarship no one expected. Another chose vocational training and thrived with hands-on work. One joined humanitarian work, inspired by stories of survival they'd heard all their life. One became an artist, turning childhood chaos into color and form. One entered medicine, quietly determined to be the doctor who once saved them. One struggled longer, fell, got back up, fell again, but kept going. One stayed close to home, building a small business that slowly succeeded. On their 20th birthday, they gathered again, all 7 sitting in a circle, older, taller, changed. They laughed about shared memories that no one else could understand. They argued about details. They teased each other. And then, without planning it, they went quiet. Their mother watched from the kitchen doorway. One by one, they stood and hugged her. Not together, individually. Each hug carried a different meaning. Gratitude, forgiveness, love, respect. That was the moment she realized what had happened to them 20 years later. They didn't become famous. They didn't become rich. They didn't become identical success stories. They became whole. They became proof that miracles don't end at birth. They continue quietly, through exhaustion, doubt, and ordinary days that feel unimportant at the time. People still ask her, "How did you do it?" She always gives the same answer. "I didn't raise 7 children," she says softly. "I raised 7 lives, and they raised me too." And that is what happened to them 20 years later, something no headline could ever fully explain. 20 years after the miracle that once shook their small town, life did not slow down for the family. It became deeper, more complicated, and far more meaningful than anyone could have imagined. As the children stepped fully into adulthood, the invisible thread connecting them began to stretch, not break. Distance entered their lives for the first time. Different cities, different routines, different struggles. For a woman who had once counted 7 breaths every night under one roof, the silence now felt unfamiliar. The house that once echoed with footsteps and arguments now held memories in every corner. The eldest, who had gone to university on a scholarship, faced a reality no one had prepared her for. Away from home, she was no longer the strong one. She struggled with pressure, with loneliness, with the fear of failure. For the first time in her life, her siblings were not physically beside her. Late at night, she called home, her voice shaking. Their mother listened, just like she had when they were children. She didn't give advice. She gave space. Slowly, the girl found her footing again. She graduated, not at the top of her class, but with resilience carved into her character. The one who chose vocational training surprised everyone. Teachers once labeled him average, quiet, unremarkable, but when he worked with his hands, something came alive inside him. He built, repaired, solved problems others avoided. Within a few years, his skills became his identity. He opened a small workshop, modest and unglamorous. At first, customers were few. Then word spread. The boy who once blended into a group of 7 became known for reliability. For honesty. For work done right. Success arrived slowly, but it stayed. The humanitarian carried a restlessness that had always been there. As a child, he had been the one who noticed pain first, the injured bird, the crying neighbor, the silent sibling. As an adult, he traveled to places his mother only saw on the news. Refugee camps, disaster zones, places where survival looked different but felt familiar. Every time he left, his mother worried. Every time he returned, thinner and quieter, she saw the weight he carried. Yet she never asked him to stop. She recognized the fire. It was the same fire that once made her refuse to give up on 7 heartbeats. The artist struggled the most with identity. Being one of 7 had always blurred boundaries. Art became a way to separate. Paintings filled with movement, noise, overlapping faces. Critics called the work raw. Galleries showed interest, but praise didn't heal everything. The artist battled doubt, periods of isolation, and the fear of disappearing again into the background. On the darkest days, siblings showed up unannounced, sitting silently until words returned. They understood without explanation. The one who chose medicine walked a path paved with exhaustion. Long nights, endless exams, memories of incubators and hospital lights never fully left. Becoming a doctor was not about status, it was about closure. During training, there were moments when saving others reopened old wounds. The fear of loss never disappeared, but it sharpened compassion. Years later, standing in a hospital corridor, wearing a white coat, the child once wrapped in wires became someone who gave hope instead of needing it. One sibling's journey was uneven. Dreams shifted, plans failed, jobs were lost, confidence shattered more than once. Outsiders judged quickly. With 7 siblings, how could one fall behind? But family didn't see failure. They saw struggle. Support came without speeches. Meals left at the door. Money lent quietly. Conversations that didn't push, only waited. Eventually, stability returned, not as triumph, but as peace. And that mattered more. The one who stayed closest to home carried the family's heartbeat. A small business, started with borrowed tools and determination, grew into something sustainable. This sibling became the connector, the one who remembered birthdays, organized gatherings, checked in on everyone. In many ways, they mirrored their mother without realizing it. As years passed, their shared childhood became legend among friends and coworkers. People listened in disbelief when they spoke of 7 cribs, shared clothes, synchronized chaos. But only they knew the truth beneath the stories, the nights of hunger, the fights over attention, the quiet sacrifices their mother never spoke of. Then came the moment that truly changed everything. Their mother fell ill. Nothing dramatic at first. Fatigue, missed appointments, smiles that hid pain. The children noticed before she admitted anything. Old instincts returned instantly. Phone calls multiplied. Travel plans were cancelled. One by one, they came home. Hospitals again. Waiting rooms again. The same sterile smell. This time, roles were reversed. 7 adults took turns holding her hand, arguing with doctors, researching treatments, praying in silence. She apologized constantly. For being sick. For being a burden. They stopped her every time. Do you remember what you taught us? One of them said, no one survives alone. Treatment was long. Recovery uncertain. But she wasn't alone, not for a single appointment, not for a single night. The same children once kept alive by machines now kept her alive with presence. During one quiet evening, as rain tapped against the windows, she finally spoke the words she had carried for decades. I was scared every day, she admitted. I worried I wasn't enough for all of you. There was silence, then laughter. Gentle, knowing laughter. You were more than enough, one said. You were everything, another added. That night, something healed, not just in her body, but in all of them. Years later, at a family gathering filled with spouses, children, and stories layered across generations, someone asked a simple question. What's the secret? How did all 7 of you turn out like this? They looked at each other. Smiled. No rehearsed answer came. Finally, one spoke. We were never raised to be special, he said. We were raised to matter. And that was the truth. 20 years later, what happened to them wasn't a miracle caught on camera or a headline written in bold letters. It was something quieter, stronger, and far more rare. They became adults who knew how to stay, how to help, how to forgive, how to return home. And the woman who once held 7 fragile lives in her trembling hands learned that the greatest miracle was not surviving, it was growing together, even when life tried its hardest to pull them apart.